I was doing street photography, walking around PJ town and taking pictures and making videos, and I realized the mirrorless cameras have actually become quite small, because in the middle of the photography I would accidentally press one of the buttons and I was stuck. I couldn't do anything else until I responded to the menu that popped out. So that's when I decided that I have to do something about covering up the buttons, right? So that I cannot actually press them accidentally. And that is what this video is about. So I hope you enjoy watching the video. The camera accessory that will stop you from accidentally clicking on buttons. Okay, this is the problem I used to have with my camera, Sony A5100, right? And when I was taking a lot of pictures, I would hold it and click, 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 click. And what would happen is my thumb, my right thumb, would press the button, the display button, and I had to wait, stop, fill up this menu, and then carry on with my picture taking or video taking. And that became an irritation because I have short-sightedness and long-sightedness. And when I'm out in the streets doing street photography, I wear my short-sighted glasses. That means I can see at a distance to see what I want to photograph. But the problem is when I focus back on the screen, it's always a little bit blur. And can you see those things there? The zebra crossings. They block me from viewing what is the actual focus, whether I'm actually focused or not. Because the screen is so small, it becomes difficult to see whether your image is out of focus or not. And I have on several occasions taken unfocused pictures. Actually, they are not focused on where I wanted the camera to focus. Without noticing, I'll keep knocking it, and see, it wouldn't. I would have to stop and fix the menu. See, sometimes the other menu comes up, right? Many times the ISO menus come up because I pressed it like that with my thumb, right, while I'm taking photographs. And that became a little bit irritating to see, to view. And sometimes I found my ISO somewhere around 8000 or asking me whether I want to set at a very high ISO, but actually I just want to set it at auto, right? So that became a real nuisance, and I had to do something to cover up this when I'm taking photographs, so I cannot accidentally hit this button, right? Even though it's for shutter speed, because I'm in shutter priority mode, it still becomes too irritating and difficult to handle. So I used something to cover up, and let me show you how I did it. So my initial reaction was to put a piece of metal, right, to cover this whole place, so that I couldn't accidentally press on this big button. It was a nuisance. The problem is this a woman's camera? It's so small that my hand is too big for it. See, it's too small for me to hold in two hands. But my hands are not steady, they are shaky, so I have to use two hands. And in the end, I would end up clicking on some button here and stopping my whole photography session. So initially I thought I'd put a piece of metal here, and then I realized that hey, I can't just put a piece of metal here, I have to mount it on something so that it will be firm. And that's when I realized that if I use my small rig cage, right, I have all the screw holes here to mount it, right? So that'll be fantastic. So let me just show you that. There. The small rig cage is made in China, so you can see it's already wearing out. I've only screwed it in a few 5 or 10 times at the most. It's because I wasn't using the small rig cage for a long time. And so now you can see that I have to fold something across it. Originally I was thinking whether maybe I put a sheet of metal, right? And then I realized that, hey, I have to open it out to make adjustments, right? So I thought, okay, what about a hinge? If I can put a hinge, so one side a screw here and the other side a flip across, right? And I went to the shop. Hey, brilliant people, those guys at the shop. They're very helpful and they really try to help you out, figure out what you really need. And the guy at the shop brought out a few hinges, and some were too big, right? Too big. They stuck out to the bottom, right? So they were too small. So the hinge part was here, so it couldn't fold across. And then he went and searched for something that I could use, right? And he came out with a latch. Brilliant guy, really helpful. It's fantastic that he has done it. You see, because with the latch I could screw it in, right? This is the latch I used, right? But the hole is not 1/4 inch hole, right? So I drilled a hole there, and see, it allows me to open and close. Now we have a much bigger one. See, this compared to it's hot. It's very hot, but it'll do the job. So it's quite a simple procedure. Drilling the hole through the latch, right, to make sure that I can attach it to my camera rig. The next part is to cut this part off, so that shorten the length so that it doesn't cover the LCD screen of the, or should it be LED screen of the camera. I went back to my car mechanic and he cut it off nicely for me, and it was a brilliant job. They're very nice people. I think I'm so grateful to find this mechanic and his son. His son is the one who cut it using electric cutter, and even the guys at the hardware store in SS3, they were really helpful. I really take off my hats to them, both of them. Okay, so I've dismantled it. This is my small rig, and I have screwed this in. Actually, what I now need to do is put a little bit of masking tape here, or insulation tape, so that it cannot scratch my camera screen. Putting just a little. I'm using masking insulation tape, so that maybe at a later date I will change it to something else. So now there is no sharp edge. Okay, now I can attach a little bit of Velcro here, just at the tip. So when it closes, it will meet with a strip of Velcro here. The problem I am finding is I have plenty of experiments with Velcro, so I have plenty of Velcro around. But the problem I'm thinking of is now if I put a small piece like that, it has to be a very small piece so that I don't cover up this piece. And then I have to super glue it. So let me do that another day. Let me just work with this, and basically I've shown you what I've done. A little gadget like this that will help me with my photography. So I've done as much as I could, and I think we have done a lot of good work and come out some brilliant ideas that a lot of people can use and find useful. So I hope you did find the video very interesting. This gadget, it's fantastic, isn't it? Right? That covers the buttons so that you don't accidentally hit the buttons at the back of your camera. The real problem is, you look at how small the mirrorless cameras. This is the Sony camera A5100, and I am having a difficulty. You see, I am already covered up the buttons with my palm because it's such a small camera. Can you see? Okay, so now that is why I had to come up with a gadget to cover it up. The nice thing about the old cameras, look at this, is my Canon AE1. It's a very old film camera. It's, I think, maybe 40 years old, and it's heavy. It's heavy, right? And you can actually see how stable it is, right? My hand is a little bit shaky, but it's quite stable, and I have so much space. See, you just look at what's happening at the back. There's nothing. I have the winder and the shutter, right? It's brilliant, and nothing gets in the way of my hand. Whereas the modern mirrorless cameras, I think they were designed for women, right? They are not designed for men, because our men's hands are much bigger than women's hands. At least that's what I suspect. And you see, just now I could carry my Canon with two hands. Here I'm having difficulty carrying with two hands. You see, because the camera is almost swollen up by my hands, and when I hold it, I'm covering the buttons, which is very important when you are finding, in the street and doing street photography or street videos, and you accidentally knock the buttons, and then you find, oh, you have to sort out the menu. That's the one thing I didn't like about the smartphones. Right in the middle of taking a video or photography, especially videos, a menu will pop up. It will block me from doing anything until I respond to the menu, or the phone will start ringing. I have to stop videoing, right? So don't be impressed by smartphones, okay? I tell you, you can start off with using smartphones, but eventually you will have to go to a camera. The lenses are much better, and you learn a lot about photography when you start using a camera. So now it's brilliant, isn't it? I want to show you in the end what I have done. See, because I'm using a small rig cage, I can cover, and my hand is not touching any of the buttons. So if I want to adjust the buttons, I open it up and I can adjust whatever I want to do, right? So this is a brilliant gadget. It's worth it, and I hope that either Sony or the mirrorless camera manufacturers come out with something to disable accidentally knocking the buttons, or the small rig manufacturers will come up with a little gadget. It just cost me 2-3 ringgit. I think less than 10 ringgit, about 250 US to build this gadget. And how useful it is, right? And it should be wonderful if it's part of the small rig cage. It'll be really wonderful. And so you found it a brilliant idea. It's wonderful, isn't it? Especially if you have big hands like mine, right? It's very useful. There are some more videos coming, and if you want to learn more about novel ideas and novel ways of doing things, better ways of doing things, subscribe to my channel and wait for the next one. You'll be informed. YouTube will inform you when my next video comes out. Brilliant.